Imagine this. You're staring at the to-do list on your desk, tasks piling up one after another, yet you can't even summon the strength to pick up a pen. Your phone lies just within reach. You know scrolling through another video or message will only deepen your guilt, but your hand still moves almost involuntarily. You tell yourself you're lazy, weak-willed, undisciplined, but deep down, you know that explanation doesn't hold, because at certain moments, you've burned with focus and intensity. You've poured yourself completely into a goal. So why is it that today you feel as if some invisible force has drained you? Haven't you noticed this paradox? You have dreams for the future, yet you can't take the smallest step toward them. You despise procrastination, yet you fall into its cycle again and again. You want to seize control of your life, yet you keep moving as if pulled by fate's strings. You begin to wonder, am I born lazy? Is there something flawed in my character? But doesn't this very questioning prove that you care, that you struggle, that you long to break free? A truly lazy person wouldn't suffer from their own stagnation. Maybe your problem is not laziness at all, but being lost. It's not that you lack energy, it's that you've lost direction. You're like a traveler standing at a crossroads, every road hazy and indistinguishable, unsure which way to go, so you stay still. Outsiders only see someone doing nothing, wasting time. They call you lazy. Eventually, you start believing that label yourself. But is that really the truth, or is it a massive misunderstanding? Think of those late-night waves of suffocating anxiety. Are they really about laziness? Or are they the voice deep inside you whispering that you are walking a path that was never yours? Maybe you've been trying to please your parents, to fit society's mold, to imitate someone else's version of success. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, is this truly the direction I want? When you're lost inside someone else's map, of course you can't move forward. You're not lazy, you're lost. But here comes the more unsettling question. If you've long mistaken being lost for being lazy, has your entire life already been quietly rewritten without you realizing it? That is the ultimate question you cannot escape. When you accept the label of lazy, are you ignoring the real issue, the question of where you are truly heading? So what is the real cause of this feeling of being stuck, this laziness that haunts you? The answer is far more complex than you might think. It's not about a lack of willpower or self-discipline. It's about a deep-rooted disconnection from your own desires, a profound misalignment between your inner needs and the external expectations imposed on you. At the core of this issue lies what psychologists call the shadow self, a concept introduced by Carl Jung. The shadow represents the parts of yourself that you suppress, deny, or fail to integrate. These are the traits, desires, and feelings that you are taught to reject or feel ashamed of. Jung argued that the shadow is not inherently negative. It contains both destructive and creative potential. However, when ignored or repressed, it takes on a life of its own, lurking in the unconscious, subtly controlling your behavior without you even realizing it. Consider this. What if the reason you feel stuck or lazy is because you are constantly battling against parts of yourself that you refuse to acknowledge? Your true desires, your authentic passions, and even your capacity for action have been stifled by the judgments of society, your parents, or your own self-criticism. You may have been taught to pursue a successful life according to external standards. But inside, you know that something is off. The paths you're taking aren't really yours, and so your mind and body rebel. You shut down, you procrastinate, you avoid. But this is not laziness. It's a defense mechanism, a response to being out of alignment with your own truth. The more you suppress your true self, the more you lose your inner drive. This is why you feel so empty, when you try to push yourself to do things that feel disconnected from who you really are. It's like trying to drive a car with the parking brake on. The energy is there, but it's blocked. This brings us to the existential philosophy of Jean-Paul Sartre, who argued that existence precedes essence. In other words, you are not born with a fixed purpose or identity. Instead, you create yourself through your choices and actions. But here's the paradox. If you live according to other people's definitions of success, you're not truly creating yourself, you're merely conforming to a pre-existing script. And when you live a life that isn't authentically yours, a life that's not your own creation, the result is a sense of existential emptiness, a kind of spiritual paralysis. Sartre called this phenomenon bad faith. Bad faith is the lie you tell yourself when you try to escape the responsibility of defining yourself. When you live in denial of your own freedom, it's easier to fall into the trap of bad faith because it relieves you of the burden of making real choices. But the cost of living in bad faith is the loss of your authenticity and, consequently, the loss of your motivation. This existential disconnection also echoes in the work of Arthur Schopenhauer, who described life as a perpetual struggle between will and representation. The will is the core driving force of your existence, the inner drive, the unrelenting desire to achieve, to create, to fulfill your potential. But this will is often at odds with the representation, the way society tells you should live, the images of success and happiness imposed upon you. Schopenhauer believed that the more you align your life with societal expectations, the more you distance yourself from your true will, leading to a deep sense of dissatisfaction and suffering. Here's where it gets interesting. The disconnect between the will and the representation is the root cause of your procrastination. The reason you struggle to get started, the reason you feel lazy, is because you are not honoring your true desires. You are constantly battling an internal war between your authentic will and the external demands placed upon you. So the question becomes, how can you stop this endless cycle of disconnection? To understand that, you must first acknowledge that you are not lazy. You are disoriented. You've been taught to believe that the only valid way to live is according to someone else's script. But this is the lie you've been fed, and as long as you continue to believe it, the cycle of procrastination and self-doubt will continue to trap you. The key to breaking free lies in reconnecting with your authentic self, the part of you that is still alive with passion, purpose, and possibility. But this isn't something that can be fixed with a quick motivational speech or a productivity hack. It requires a deep, honest confrontation with who you really are and a commitment to living according to your own values. You need to start asking yourself difficult questions. What do you really want? What does success look like to you, not to your parents, not to society, but to you? You've just begun to realize that the feeling of being stuck is not laziness, but a deeper disconnection from your true self. Now, let's explore what happens when this misalignment persists, when you continue to live your life on someone else's terms, refusing to acknowledge your own desires and will. The consequences, both for your individual life and for society as a whole, are far-reaching and insidious. First, let's look at how this inner conflict, this war between your true desires and external expectations, quietly shapes your personal destiny. When you disconnect from your own authenticity, your life becomes a series of compromises, decisions made out of fear or obligation rather than genuine desire. And over time, these compromises accumulate, creating a life that feels more like a series of rehearsed performances than a genuine expression of who you are. This is where cognitive dissonance enters the picture. Cognitive dissonance is a psychological term for the discomfort we feel when our beliefs and actions are in conflict. If you constantly act in ways that are inconsistent with your true desires, choosing paths that aren't yours, saying yes when you mean no, following a script that doesn't fit, you'll experience a constant, low-grade unease in your mind and body. You might not even be fully aware of it, but your brain knows that something's wrong. This is what leads to that feeling of being stuck or lazy. It's not just procrastination. It's your psyche trying to reconcile these two opposing forces. But the worst part is, these mental battles don't just stay in your head, they manifest in your body too. Chronic procrastination, anxiety, and self-doubt weaken your sense of self-worth, and over time, this erosion affects your physical health. Studies have shown that the longer you live in a state of internal conflict, the higher our risk for stress-related illnesses, depression, and even heart disease. Your mind and body are intricately connected, and the longer you ignore your inner self, the more it shows in your health. You may not feel the consequences immediately, but they accumulate over time, slowly undermining your well-being. At a societal level, the consequences are just as devastating. Think about the world we live in today. A society that thrives on external validation, a culture that equates worth with external success, whether it's wealth, status, or superficial achievements. People are constantly told what to value, how to live, and what their lives should look like. The result: a society of disconnected individuals, people who are going through the motions, but not truly living. We become a generation of performers, not creators. We play our roles because that's what we're told to do, not because we believe in what we're doing. And as a result, we end up reinforcing a system that prizes conformity over authenticity. The cost of this disconnection is enormous, both personally and collectively. On an individual level, it leads to a sense of futility, a feeling that no matter what you do, it's never enough. The joy of creating, of living authentically, is lost, replaced by the empty pursuit of things that don't fulfill you. You end up going through the motions, endlessly ticking off boxes that society tells you are important, while your true desires are buried deeper and deeper, never fully realized. And on a collective level, this cultural disconnection creates a society that is emotionally numb, spiritually bankrupt, and fundamentally lost. Think about the rise of mental health issues, addiction, and alienation in modern society. People are more connected than ever before through technology, but at the same time, they're more isolated and disillusioned than ever. This isn't a coincidence. We live in a world where people have been taught to pursue external rewards, money, status, fame, but have forgotten how to seek meaning, purpose, and connection. We've built a world based on the wrong values, and the fallout is profound. This disconnection doesn't just affect individuals, it ripples out to affect relationships, communities, and entire nations. It leads to a crisis of meaning, where people no longer know what they're living for. The frustration and anxiety you feel, the emptiness that sometimes weighs on you, isn't just a personal problem. It's a symptom of a much larger societal issue. When people aren't living authentically, when they're not connected to their own desires and values, they start to disengage from the world around them. This is when real change becomes difficult. When everyone is playing a part, no one is truly creating. So what are the unseen consequences of living disconnected from your true self? They are quiet, but devastating. They're the creeping sense of emptiness that pervades your every decision, the anxiety that lingers in the background of your life, the health issues that emerge as a result of unaddressed stress. But perhaps the most terrifying consequence is that this disconnection, if left unexamined, will continue to spread both in your own life and throughout society. The longer we ignore our true desires, the deeper we sink into a collective malaise, and the harder it becomes to break free. The more you let these misalignments define your actions, the more you reinforce a system that keeps you in the dark, caught in the same patterns. And the longer you stay in this state of disconnection, the harder it becomes to escape. The problem isn't procrastination, it's the erosion of your sense of self. And the more you ignore it, the more it takes root. Now that you understand the depth of the problem, the internal conflict, the cognitive dissonance, and the long-term consequences, it's time to ask a fundamental question. How do you break free from this mental and existential trap? If you've been living according to someone else's script, it's not going to be easy to suddenly change direction. But there is hope. There is a way to reconnect with your true self, to finally escape from the prison of external expectations and find a path that is uniquely your own. And it begins with something simple yet profound: awareness. The first step in breaking free from the maze of disconnection is to recognize that you've been trapped in the first place. You need to become acutely aware of the ways in which society, culture, and your past conditioning have shaped your beliefs, desires, and choices. This awareness is the first spark of rebellion against a system that has kept you in a state of autopilot. The moment you realize you've been living someone else's life is the moment you can start taking back control. This isn't a one-time epiphany. It's an ongoing process. It's about questioning everything: your beliefs, your motivations, your habits. Why do you make the choices you do? Why do you chase the things you chase? When you look at your life, does it reflect your true desires, or is it a series of compromises built to appease others? This questioning process is your rebellion, and it's necessary if you want to reclaim your authentic self. Here's the key: the mind loves certainty. The idea of living authentically, of shedding all the societal conditioning, can be terrifying because it invites uncertainty. Uncertainty about who you are, what you want, and how you fit into the world. But it's this very uncertainty that holds the power to set you free, to break out of the mold. You need to embrace the discomfort of not knowing. It's only in this uncertain space that true freedom and creativity emerge. The process of breaking free from the external script is about learning to trust yourself again, learning to embrace the unknown, and above all, learning to create rather than follow. One of the most powerful tools in this process is what Carl Jung called the shadow. The shadow represents all the parts of ourselves that we suppress, deny, or hide from the world. These are the parts that don't fit into society's expectations of who we should be. But Jung argued that by confronting and integrating these hidden parts, we can become whole. The shadow holds the key to your liberation because it contains everything society has told you to reject about yourself. Your weaknesses, your flaws, your desires, your fears. By acknowledging and embracing your shadow, you begin to step into your true self, no longer at the mercy of external judgment. But the shadow work isn't easy. It requires brutal honesty. It means looking at your fears, your insecurities, your anger, your shame, and instead of running from them, facing them head on. It means no longer judging yourself for being lazy or unmotivated. You're not lazy. You're simply disillusioned with a world that doesn't align with your values, your procrastination, your avoidance, your fear of taking action. These are all signals, signs from your unconscious mind that something is out of alignment. Instead of condemning these behaviors, start listening to them. Ask yourself, why am I avoiding this? What part of myself is scared to show up? When you do this, you begin to peel away the layers of self-deception that have kept you locked in place. Another key aspect of this rebellion is embracing the process of creation. Once you begin to embrace the uncertainty of being your true self, you also begin to create in a way that reflects your unique vision. This means letting go of the societal expectations of success, happiness, or even fulfillment. Society tells you that you need to have a plan, a set career, a stable life, but the truth is, life is not a checklist, it's an ongoing creation. Don't aim for certainty, aim for expression. Think of the great philosophers and artists who lived authentically, people like Nietzsche, who rejected the societal norms of his time to live a life true to his own vision, or Søren Kierkegaard, who defied religious orthodoxy to pursue his own philosophical path. They were rebels, yes, but their rebellion wasn't against authority, it was against the authority of conformity. They knew that true freedom didn't lie in submission, but in living a life that was fully their own, no matter how chaotic or uncertain that might seem. This is what existentialism teaches us, that life has no inherent meaning except the meaning we give it. You are the author of your own existence, and it's your job to write your own story, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone else. When you begin to view your life as a canvas, one where you have the power to create, you'll find that the chains of external expectations lose their power. The more you embrace your own creation, the more alive you'll feel. And this is where the shift happens. When you stop waiting for permission and start giving yourself permission, you begin to break free. No longer will you wait for society's validation or approval. No longer will you let external standards dictate your worth. You will begin to live on your own terms. But be warned, this process will require you to confront the fear of the unknown. Living authentically means stepping off the beaten path, which is scary, uncertain, and sometimes lonely. But remember, it is in this very uncertainty that you will find your freedom. It is here that your true self can finally emerge. You've made it this far, and you may be thinking, okay, I understand the need to break free, to question everything, to embrace the uncertainty of living authentically. But what's the ultimate truth that I'm searching for? It's time to look at the core truth, the one that transcends everything you've been taught, everything you've been conditioned to believe, the ultimate, life-altering insight that has the power to shatter the illusion of who you thought you were. It's this: the only thing that matters is the life you choose to live. This may sound simple, even cliche, but let it sink in. The life you're living right now is the result of the choices you've made up until this point. Every decision, every path you've taken, every compromise you've accepted, it's all been shaped by the way you've chosen to respond to the world around you. But here's the radical truth: you can choose differently. Right now, this very moment, you have the power to choose who you become. This is not a matter of positive thinking or simply visualizing your dreams. This is the reality of existential freedom. It means acknowledging that no one else is in charge of your life except you. Not your parents, not society, not even your past mistakes. You are the one who holds the pen to your own story. You are the creator of your own destiny. Now you may still be asking, but how do I know what I should choose? This is the ultimate paradox. There's no guaranteed answer. There's no blueprint for the perfect life. There's no roadmap that promises happiness, success, or fulfillment. And yet, this is the most liberating realization. You don't need someone else's map. You don't need to follow anyone else's path. You are the map maker. The path you choose is yours alone to create. But the trick is this: to make a choice, you must first let go of the illusion of certainty. You have to embrace the chaos, the messiness, and the unpredictability of existence. This is where true courage lies, not in knowing exactly what will happen next, but in trusting yourself enough to move forward despite not knowing. It's about living with the understanding that life is not meant to be controlled, but to be experienced. The most profound aspect of this realization is that once you accept that life is fluid, uncertain, and even chaotic, you become free to experiment, free to fail, free to get it wrong, and then try again. The chains of perfectionism, of needing to have everything figured out, begin to fall away. There's also a deeper truth at play here. The need to control your life comes from a fear of losing it. Deep down, you fear that if you let go, if you stop trying to control every detail, you will lose everything. But in reality, it's the constant striving for control that keeps you trapped in a cycle of anxiety, self-doubt, and unfulfilled potential. The more you try to control, the more you limit your freedom. But when you learn to surrender control not to others, but to yourself, you tap into a power far greater than anything you could ever manage through force. And here is the final piece of the puzzle. It is not about having everything figured out. It is about embracing the process of becoming. Who you are today is not who you lions be tomorrow. The person you were a year ago is not the person you are now. You are constantly evolving, constantly growing, constantly learning, and the beauty of this journey lies in the fact that it's never fixed, never static. You may think you need to find the perfect job, the perfect partner, the perfect life to feel fulfilled. But the truth is, fulfillment is not found in external achievements. It is found in the freedom to live authentically. True happiness comes when you stop living for validation from others, when you stop chasing approval and instead start living for yourself. When you align your life with your deepest values and desires, you begin to experience a sense of fulfillment that no external success could ever provide. So, what does this mean for you? It means that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. And you don't have to follow anyone's rules but your own. The only thing that matters is that you live in alignment with your own truth, your own desires, your own soul. And when you do that, everything else falls into place. The ultimate truth is this: you are not lost. You are simply waiting for permission to be who you truly are. But here's the secret: you don't need anyone's permission anymore. You are the author of your own life, and the only question that matters is, who do you choose to be? When you embrace this freedom, when you realize that your life is yours to create, you'll begin to see that all the struggles, all the pain, all the uncertainty were never obstacles. They were invitations. Invitations to break free from the chains of conformity, to rise above the expectations, and to create a life that is uniquely, powerfully, and authentically yours. So ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped waiting for permission? What would happen if you decided right now to live the life you were meant to live? The answer to that question will change everything.